her black hair blended with the shadows as if it were part of the dark itself, and her lithe body wriggled from shadow to shadow as if she were made of supple rope, not lanky bones. Behind her, she left only a faint worm's trail where the grass did not spring back before Yagli bent it down again. With one hand on the hilt of her sword, Dion drew her blade forward beside her, hiding its long length beneath her body when she stopped. A stone gouged her knee, and she shifted around it silently. She eased sideways for the other scout to join her, and a moment later, Yagli's long body lay next to hers. Dion scowled, adjusting her war cap with a slow shift of her shoulder. The healer's circlet was well hidden beneath the leather and metal mesh, but her braid was frizzing between the two. The rising wind whipped loose hairs into her eyes and across her nose until her face was tickled from brow to chin. She blinked as old leaves whirled up and past, followed by the long, hollow threads of winter grass, straining to break free. The pale spring sun slipped down in the sky. They had an hour, no more, before they would have to ease back and cross again into Ramaj Ari. She narrowed her eyes. From here, she could see 10, maybe even 12 raiders in this camp. Their shelters were sturdy, their supplies stacked neatly. This looked more like a soldier's fort than a raider's stakeout. She eased forward another meter, stopping at the edge of the shadow in which she hid. If there had been no wind, they could have heard every word the raiders spoke, but the gusting breeze brought, then stripped away the sounds. A word, a phrase, that was not enough to tell anything. "I can't make anything out," Yagli said in her ear, "but I would bet on all 9 moons that something is up. Look at their stance. For the last 9 days, an entire Ninan, they have been guarding the bridge against Ari. Now they stand as if they guard the crossing from those in their own county." "But the refugees are not due for 3 more days," Dion breathed in return. "How could the raiders know to guard the crossings early?" "Maybe it is some other poor fool running from the camps." "But if the raiders are wary now," she whispered, "the refugees will never make it through to the Devil's Knee." "If they even know to go there," the dark-haired man returned as he eyed the raiders' camp. "They know," she whispered back. "The North Scout crossed back into Ari yesterday. He got the message through. It was not easy, though. There were raiders everywhere." "How did you pick that up?" Yagli glanced back over the river. "The wolf?" She nodded almost imperceptibly. Her bond with the gray ones was strong enough that, like the other wolf-walkers, she could hear the packsong at a distance. Even now, the faint gray voices echoed through her thoughts like a winter wind in a forest. Yagli turned his gaze back to the raiders' camp. "Must be nice," he whispered. "I have to wait for the message birds or the runners to find out anything important." She smiled wryly. "At least you're not assigned down south. Gaman said that the mud there is so thick that even the runners have to walk." "You will be walking in mud yourself if we don't start back soon." The scout's gaze flickered to the sky. "Rain will be here in an hour." Dion followed his glance. "I've still got 40 kilometers to go to meet the next scout on the line." Yagli gave her a sly look. "And 10 kilometers more after that?" She blushed slowly. "Yes," she said steadily. "Any news to pass along?" The other man hid his smile. When Dion worked in the hospitals, she might be as serious as any other healer, but out here he could make her blush like a girl. "Tell Araner, and Gaman," he added while Dion's flush deepened, "that there are 4 more camps like this above and below this bridge. Further south, they are thicker than flies on a dead dog. From now on, we won't be able to use any crossing below the sky bridge." "The crossings above the bridge aren't safe anymore either," she said slowly. Yagli gave her a thoughtful look. "The raiders are massing there, too." They have not set up permanent camps yet. That we know of, she amended. But Gaman thinks that is just a matter of time. Even the slot is no longer completely safe. Yagli's lips set in a grim line. The refugees would never make the slot anyway, not with children in the group. The raiders will be hot on their trail when they escape. Wherever it is they run, they better be able to get to a crossing fast. Which means, Dion agreed, noting the clouds that swept up over the horizon before turning her attention back to the camp, that their only choice is the Devil's Knee. Or death, Yagli added silently. In the dim gray morning, the river's surface splashed dully each time the water surged against the soil of the bank. The slapping sounds were like the smacking of a badger bear as it eats, sending a shiver down Moira's emaciated back. The roiling waves in the deeper stream refused to hold the reflection of the sky. They turned black instead, with the shadows of the canyon. There was no warmth to this dawn. Moira, shivering uncontrollably, hugged herself as if she could hold on to the thought of warmth. Yesterday, the flat, pale sun had disappeared into thin clouds and chill winds, raising bumps on Moira's bare legs and forcing the children to huddle into the moss as they had huddled through the night. Now, standing on the trail, Moira glanced back at them, her eyes dull and sunken in her face. Like the others, she had wrapped her feet in rags and bark. She wore only a thin tunic. No leggings, no jacket against the bitter chill of the canyon wind that whipped her shirt against her skin and slapped the cold further into her body. Only the tunic that hung to her thighs and left her bruise-striped legs pale and blue in the wind. She stared up the canyon. The overcast heights were more gray than green now, but there was safety in those stones. She knew it. Her calves burned as she forced herself forward on the trail. Her feet were numb from the mud. Her breath rasped through the gaps in her teeth. Gods, she prayed, let her body hold out a little longer. She could not stop now. There were the children to think about. Children, with their haunted, hollow eyes. Old Jared, his knobby hands pressed hard against his ribs, stumbled up beside her. The stitch in his side had gone beyond pain, and the gesture was now reflex. He wondered when he had ceased to care. He motioned downstream with his chin. Moira shook her head vehemently. The wolves followed them. She was sure she had seen a gray one just before dawn, though there had been no tracks when she and Jared went to look. Tracks? Her face twisted, as if she could read the marks in the dirt as she once read her counsel books. Did her ignorance of the woods matter? Even if she knew how to hide their trail, the wolves would scent them out. All she could do was run to the river, and pray the wolves did not attack while she waited to be seen. Waiting. It would bring their death upon them. Moons helped them all, but she had fled the camp too early. The Arians would not expect them for 2 more days, and the raiders had been on her heels from the hour she and the others had escaped. Her group had gained some little time by hiding in a bog. They gained more when they crawled into an old lepus den. The wolves had passed them by. Jared said the oily stench of the predator birds was still strong enough to mask the scent of the children. But, Moira worried, her eyes flickering from tree to stone, where could they hide here, at the river's edge? The trees were thin at this altitude, and the cliffs rose with the trail. Soon there would be only rocks to conceal them. 2 days, Jared whispered, echoing her thoughts. 62 hours to hide, and pray the wolves will pass us by. Moira stared at the river, the one thin border that taunted them with the safety of its other side, watching it thrust and tumble the spring snags like matchsticks. Jared followed her gaze to the river. We could never